She was even able to get Walgreens wrapped into this mess. And Walgreens did a whole campaign for them. But when the test came back, they misled patients. Hey guys, Lincoln here from BoWAcademy.org. I had another video planned for tonight, but I just keep getting more and more comments about Nikola and Trevor Milton. I want to just touch on it because people keep asking me what my thoughts are on that. And I did make a video before a few days ago about how I would invest in Nikola over Tortoise Acquisition, Helion. If I had to, of course, I would not invest in either of them. I would just invest in Tesla because it's the more ambitious company and it's worth magnitudes more than both of them combined. And it's going to be worth trillions of dollars into the future. So my bet is fully on Tesla. I would not invest in Nikola, I would not invest in Helion, but that wasn't always the case. So the truth is, I was invested in VTIQ, which was the SPAC that took Nikola Motors public up until right before the merger completed. A few weeks before the merger completed, I had enough of Nikola and I took out most of my money from VTIQ. I kept a few shares of VTIQ into the merger and after the merger until a few weeks after when I just had enough of Trevor Milton and I had to drop out of VTIQ completely. So on this channel, we preach the bull mentality, right? The bull mentality is that we know what we invest in. We understand what we invest in. We believe in what we invest in. And we hold for the long term. So when VTIQ announced that it was going to take Nikola Motors public and bring us all this ambitious startup that was going to power commercial trucks with hydrogen fuel cells, I was bought in. I was all in on it, right? I believed in it. I did my research. I understood the concepts behind hydrogen fuel cells. And I made sure I looked into the comparisons between hydrogen fuel cells and battery electric. And I thought, okay, there's a chance here that they can actually pull this off and make hydrogen fuel cells efficient enough to actually work and compete with battery electric. So I did my research. I knew what the company was about. I understood the technology well enough to invest in it. I believed in the mission and I planned to hold Nikola Motors for the long term. But all of that changed when I kept hearing more and more from Trevor Milton, and it started to remind me of Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes was that lady not too long ago who said that she was going to make it super easy to do blood tests for multiple diseases with just one blood sample. That is a very ambitious goal, and that's probably why people invested in it. I like to invest in ambitious goals, right? In my own companies, in my investments, I have a very aggressive approach to investing. And most of the time, I go for ambitious goals that have asymmetric risk and have the potential for outsized gains. I make big bets that can pay off big gains, right? And that's how investors who make it big think. So institutional investors, private investors, venture capitalists, they take big bets. And sometimes they bet on things that seem way too ambitious to the normal citizen, right? And if they do that enough times, they get lucky that one of their bets pay off. But there's a good chance that many of their bets are going to fail. And then there's equally a good chance that one of their bets is a complete scam. Elizabeth Holmes fits the latter description. She was a complete scam, and it took very smart investors multiple years to figure out the scam was happening. And finally, once enough evidence came out after years of people suggesting that this was a scam and no one believed in them, the house of cards that Elizabeth Holmes was building for years came crumbling down, right? It was an intricate web of lies and deceit, right? She deceived multiple otherwise very smart and capable investors, right? Billionaires. She deceived them all and she ran with their money until she was caught. That took years. And once it was all said and done, I watched the documentary on her. Her and her single blood test. This was the look that she had on magazine covers for years. She would hold up her single blood testing capsule. And that single test is what she said could uncover multiple diseases in a person. She was claiming that she could test for it with a single blood test, all of them in one go. But for years she faked results and she led on investors, telling them that they were close and that their machinery worked and that their tech worked. But when people came to check out the tech, It never worked the way she explained in actuality, right? They faked results to journalists, to other employees. Only a select few employees were able to actually see the technology for what it was. And it was a scam the whole time. Everyone wanted to believe in this genius youth of a woman. She was an ambitious woman from Stanford who had dropped out and was going to change the world with this single blood test, and everyone wanted to believe this beautiful story. It was an amazing story that she told, and everyone bought in for years. It was a beautiful story made of beautiful silk webs, right? And she wrapped it all up in a bun and said, "Here it is, everyone." She was even able to get Walgreens wrapped into this mess. And Walgreens did a whole campaign for them. But when the test came back, they misled patients, right? There was false positives and there were false negatives. What's worse than false positives? False negatives, right? Telling someone they don't have a disease that they actually do have. They're both terrible, right? Because if you tell someone they have a disease that they don't have, then they might have to undergo procedures to treat or cure that disease. And if you tell someone that they don't have a disease that they do have, then they don't catch it and they die from it. And they were telling some patients they didn't have a disease that they actually had when they went to get a second opinion, a second test. What they were trying to do, what she said was possible, what she said that they had solved and figured out after getting billions of dollars in investments was fake. It was all fake, all of it. So how does all of this come back to Nikola Motors? The connection is between Elizabeth Holmes and Trevor Milton. The more and more Trevor Milton spoke, the more and more concerned I became. When I was a kid, one of my favorite shows was Lie to Me. The doctor was able to detect when people were lying just by looking at their expressions on their faces and the way they moved their cheeks and their lips and their eyes and their eyebrows and their eyelashes, all of it. And how they looked left to right and whatever. If they were sweating, if they were stuttering, right? He used all of those to detect if someone was lying. Of course, that's just TV, but it has some truth to it. When Trevor Milton spoke in interviews and he was asked a question that he couldn't give a convincing answer to, at least not convincing to me or the interviewer, you could tell every time if he was trying to make it make sense in his own head, right? He was trying to connect the dots. First he said we're vertically integrated. Then he said we're going to work with a whole bunch of OEMs. And then he said we're vertically integrated. We do it all. We have all of the technology. We're leading in the space, right? We're the only ones doing this thing. But then he would go back and say, but we have figured out the best ways, the most efficient ways to make all of these OEMs work together and work in a whole process to bring together a single product. That is the complete opposite of vertical integration. The whole point of vertical integration is that you do it all yourself. That's Tesla. I've been a huge fan of vertical integration since I was a kid and I moved to the suburbs and discovered Wawa. If you live on the East Coast, Northeast, you know what Wawa is and you're probably obsessed with it. And the reason they're so good, the reason that their customers love them is because they're vertically integrated. When I first came across that concept, my mind was blown. I was so fascinated that one company could do it all on their own. Because that is a powerful position to be in. You don't have to depend on anybody else. It's all in your hands. That is why I love Tesla. That is why I work at the company I currently work at. I am a huge fan of vertical integration, and what Nikola Motors was doing had never been about vertical integration. It never was about that. They never had the capabilities, the processes, the infrastructure to vertically integrate. It never was that, right? But for a long time, Trevor Milton tried to convince himself and all of us that they were vertically integrated until he realized he couldn't keep trying to make it make sense in his own head because it was way too expensive of an operation to pull off. So then he said, We figured out an amazing process to make a whole bunch of OEMs work together and deliver us a single truck that is hydrogen fuel cell powered, right? And we figured out how to make hydrogen fuel cell technology efficient, so much so that it's a viable competitor to battery electric. I wanted to believe that second part. I wanted to believe that they could figure out hydrogen fuel cells and make it efficient enough to compete with battery electric, right? I would have been happy to have Tesla in my portfolio working on battery electric technology and winning in that space, and then Nikola Motors on hydrogen fuel cell and winning in that space. That would have been great for me, right? I could have won in both spots, and I would have been very happy about that. But as the weeks went on after the merger and I watched more and more interviews of Trevor Milton with somebody's podcast, as I continued to watch Trevor Milton try to make all of this make sense in his own head, it became extremely apparent to me that Trevor Milton was trying to pull a wool over everyone's heads. I didn't have any concrete evidence, but I've been around long enough, right? I'm 27 years old. I've seen a whole lot. And I am a student of human psychology. So much so that when I went to college, I was originally a marketing major because human psychology fascinated me that much, and it still does. So when this report came out from this short seller, I wasn't surprised at all because I've seen this before. I was around when Elizabeth Holmes was doing the same thing, and she was very, very masterful in how she did it. The only reason she got away with it for so long was because it took so long for anyone to gather concrete evidence. And now this short seller has said, I've done the research, we've done the research, we even got inside information, informants, right, from Nikola Motors. We captured drone footage of their facilities and we saw the lies that they're putting together, right? Their trucks are rolling down hills, not actually working. So we've seen this before. If you've been around for at least the last 10 or 5 years, you've seen what Elizabeth Holmes did, and people got burnt. A lot of people got burnt. But the only good part of that story when it comes to investors is that Elizabeth Holmes' company was private. She didn't get the chance to scam public investors. There's a reason it's super hard to become a publicly listed company. There's a reason the SEC exists, right? It is to protect public investors. Being a public company is no small deal, right? I'm even getting chills right now as I speak about this because the SEC has a very important job. They have to regulate all of these companies just to protect us, public investors, right? Because we don't have research teams. We don't have Ivy League students working for us to do a whole bunch of research and analyze a whole bunch of companies to decide if it's safe to invest in them. We don't have all the money to pay for that. So the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, takes our tax dollars because they already have it, right? We pay taxes for this exact reason, right? So that the government can do the things that will protect the citizens. And that includes investors. So the SEC to companies says that, hey, you can become a public company. You can become a public company. You? Don't know if we can trust you. But sometimes the SEC doesn't catch all of the bad actors. And it becomes even harder to catch the bad actors with SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies. The whole point of SPACs is to make the process of going public faster and more efficient for companies. That's why we have all these startups becoming public now, because SPACs are getting more and more credibility. But that's not completely good. That's not absolutely good, right? Of course, it's great to have more innovation on the public markets because we as investors get a chance to ride with the good actors as they build their companies up and up and up for years. Right before all of this, we didn't have the access to invest in startups. So SPACs are a net good in my opinion, but everything has its downside. And the downside to SPACs is that they make it too easy for any startup to become a publicly listed company. I really wanted Nikola Motors to work. When I first heard of them in VTIQ, VTIQ acquisition company, I did my research into them, looked into the technology, and when it made sense to me, I said to my friends, hey guys, this company is very ambitious. What they're trying to do is very hard and it most likely will not work out, but if it does work out, it can be an amazing investment, right? It's worth the bet in my opinion. The company made sense, and I still think the technology can be made to work, but now might not be the best time. We might not be there yet. It might not be time for this technology to work out. Or it is the right time, and hydrogen fuel cells could be a great alternative to battery electric vehicles. But what has become apparent is that Nikola Motors is not the company that's going to get us there. The first time I saw Trevor Milton, he came off to me as a disingenuous guy. But I kept investing because I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to just judge him from the bat. But the more and more I spent time listening to him speak and defend himself from detractors, because I know detractors. I know how insidious they are. Detractors just want to knock people down when they see them doing something good. I know that exists. Even Elon Musk has succumbed to the stress of it all, right? Elon Musk was going through a whole lot. He's this guy trying to change the world and make the world a better place for all of us. And these people are out here just detracting and putting him down and calling him names and talking about how Tesla's going to fail. All they wanted was for Tesla to fail because that's all they do. They just want to see someone else fail. Elon was having too much of it, so he wanted to take his company private and not have to succumb to all this public scrutiny. So I understand the stress. I understand trying to defend yourself against detractors. But when Trevor was doing it, I could see that what he was saying was being put together in his head as he said it. I was fooled by Nikola Motors. I was fooled by Trevor Milton. I was fooled once and twice. Shame on me. But you won't fool me again. And I hope that if you're an investor in Nikola Motors at this point, that you're doing your own research and looking into this company and Trevor Milton and trying to get some more hard evidence for yourself, just so you can understand if this is still a good investment for you. If it turns out that we're all wrong, that Trevor Milton is actually a great guy who's trying to do something real and not scam us, then I want the best for him and for Nikola Motors. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a creator, right? I know how it feels to be doubted. I know how it feels to do something ambitious, to go for an ambitious goal and be told that it can't happen, and be told that you are not the person, and be told that you cannot do it, and be told that it's not the right time. I know how all of that feels, but I believe everything that I do and say. You'll never hear me tell you a lie. If I tell you it, I believe it. That's just me. And if I find out that what I believe in is incorrect, then I will adjust my thinking and then tell you my new belief. But never will you see me and any good person who is telling you something that they actually believe in try to make it make sense in their own head, right? As they tell you. That's just the most important sign. That's why I had to pull out of Nikola Motors weeks ago, or I guess months at this point. That was a whole lot, just because I've been asked multiple times to say something about Nikola Motors and this whole situation. And I wanted to make sure that at least my viewers know how I feel about it. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give you recommendations. So all I can do is tell you my feelings and my beliefs and my reasoning for what I do, and then let you make your own choices, right? Do your own research. Put the numbers and the facts together, and sometimes you don't have facts, so you have to just go with your gut feeling and what makes sense. If I recommended Nikola to you and you invested in them, I'm not sorry for doing that, right? I'm not sorry for telling my friends to invest in Nikola because I actually believed in the company. I was acting in good faith. But I am sorry that I got fooled, and in turn, they may have also gotten fooled. So that's all I have to say on this matter for now. Thank you for sticking along in this video. I know it's been a long one, but I thought it was important that I at least came out and said what I was feeling. And if you enjoyed it, like the video below so that other people can see it and at least get my perspective on it. Share with your friends if they have invested in Nikola too and you are trying to warn them about the company, or if you just want to share a second opinion. I don't do videos like this often, but this was an important thing to cover. So on this channel, we mostly cover actual investing topics and breaking it all down so that we can all better understand how to invest correctly and build our wealth by practicing the bull mentality. The bull mentality is that we know what we invest in. We understand what we invest in. We believe in what we invest in. And we hold for the long term, but only when it makes sense. We have to know when to let it go. At some point, one of your investments will stop making sense to you. And if it's not making sense, then it makes sense to let it go and reallocate your funds. You don't have to hold on to everything forever. If we're practicing the bull mentality, then we only invest in things that we know, understand, and still believe in. Each of those points are critical to the mentality. If you no longer understand an investment you've made, it may be time to let it go. If you no longer believe in an investment that you've made, it may be time to let it go. I stopped believing in Nikola Motors, and that's why I let it go. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, like the video below, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know next time we publish a new video, and comment below what your thoughts are on all of this, on Nikola Motors, on Trevor Milton, on Elizabeth Holmes. If you know of that whole story and it reminds you of this situation, then let me know what your thoughts are below. If you are an investor in Nikola Motors, I would love to hear from you. If you believe in the company still and believe in Trevor Milton and think this is all blown out of proportion, let me know below. Let's talk about it. If you are still on the fence about Nikola Motors, comment below. Let's talk about it. This has been a pretty heavy video for me. I really had chills earlier when I told you I did, because this is scary stuff. We put our trust in these founders, in these CEOs, in these executive teams to uphold their fiduciary duties to all of us investors. Their job is to act in the best interest of the business and of the investors, of the shareholders. That is their job. So when they lie to us, that's very scary, right? Because our whole life's work could be at risk, right? Our money is not free. We didn't get it on a tree. No one gave it to us. Especially us retail investors. We worked very hard for all of this. We weren't born on second base or third base, right? We don't have trust funds that we can fall back on. Some of us couldn't even afford to go to college, but we still worked hard for our money. And then we put our money to work for us. And we put that money behind someone we believed in, that inspired us, that told us that they were going to do something great for the world and for our money, right? For our wealth. And then they lied to us and they deceived us. And when that happens, it breaks our trust, and it can break our financial situations and sometimes cause people to lose their homes and lose their health and lose their family and friends. All of this was very heavy for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but if you have lost money through all of this, I'm sorry, but this is the process of investing. Sometimes you get burnt. That's how it goes. But the good news is that most companies and most founders and most executive teams fulfill their fiduciary duties. They act in the best interest of shareholders. That's why our system works. That's why we invest in the stock market, because we have regulators. We have the Securities Exchange Commission to filter out the bad actors. But filters don't always work at a rate of 100%, right? Some bad actors will slip through. And you have to be aware of that possibility and be ready to react appropriately when these situations do happen. So that's all for now. I'm Lincoln with bullacademy.org. Thank you again, and have a great day.